Today, I'd like to offer some very practical advice for waking up and living awake. And that is to practice in every moment. When I was with Thich Nhat Hanh, which I was for a long time, 40 years, this is what we worked on. I have a friend, someone who has been with me for a while, and he has a very strong meditation practice. It's been a 40-year meditation practice or longer, very disciplined, every morning for an hour, every night for an hour for 40 years. And during that time, he's been able to go very deeply into meditation, very deeply into a space of no mind, into a space of freedom from all thoughts. Many people practice for 40 years and they're still thinking while they're meditating. They're still caught up in their thoughts. But he very deeply, for a long time, has been able to go very deeply into freedom from thoughts, into being aware and present while he's meditating. The problem is that in the rest of his life, it's a mess because he hasn't taken the practice on to the rest of his life. The practice is meditation. There he experiences this freedom and peace of deep meditation beyond thoughts. But in the rest of his life, he's not doing that. Slowly, he's starting to do it, but he hadn't been doing it before. He compartmentalized his spiritual practice and the rest of life. And often this is, in a way, the way we're taught. We're taught meditate first thing in the morning and at night before you go to sleep. This is when you should be meditating. And it sort of sets up this artificial idea of a boundary, like this is my meditation time. I have my meditation room. Everything is separate from meditation, and this is a precious time, so I'm going to make time for this. And somehow in our mind, we've separated out the rest of life from our meditation practice. We're thinking, this is a special time when I do this, and the rest of the time I'm not meditating. Well, in Thich Nhat Hanh's practice, we were taught that there's always meditation. So everything you do in life is a meditation. Walking is a meditation, driving is a meditation, working is a meditation, washing the dishes is a meditation, going to the bathroom is a meditation, taking a shower is a meditation. Every single thing you do is a meditation. Lifting your hand is a meditation. You know, if you're writing and typing on a computer, that's a meditation. Using the computer is a meditation. The feeling of your fingers on the keyboard are a meditation, or moving the mouse, or using your cell phone is a meditation. Everything is a meditation. So what that means is you're fully aware of what you're doing in every moment. You're fully aware of what you're doing in every moment. Most of our life is automatic. You know, we drive to the store, we get in the car. It's like we don't even know how we got there. It's all on automatic. We're not aware of putting the key into the ignition and turning the ignition. Well, some cars don't even have that anymore, but opening the door. And when you get out, if you're going shopping, when you park the car and you get out to walking, that you're aware of every step of your walking as you walk to the store. This is the practice that we were given. So for 40 years, I practiced in every moment of my life being fully aware of every moment of my life. And it's a practice because we're habituated to do these things on automatic. I know how to walk. I don't have to think about that anymore. I don't have to focus on that. Let me get lost in my thoughts about what I'm going to get in the store. Before I'm even in the store, I'm thinking about what I'm going to get in the store, why I'm going to the store. But when you practice mindfulness, when you practice being aware and present, then every step that you take, you're fully aware of that step. When you get into the store, everything you do, you're fully aware of that. If it's a grocery store and you're going to lift something off a shelf or pick up some produce, you're aware of your hand moving to pick that up. You're aware of your hand moving back. The movement of your body is like a dance. I used to teach Tai Chi, and in this, you teach Tai Chi, and the way that I taught Tai Chi is to say that you should move in this way in every moment of your life. Every time the body's moving, you should be fully aware of the movement. Why do it only in Tai Chi class? Every moment you're aware. Every moment you're fully aware. And this means that in every moment you're alive. In every moment you're fully alive. If you're washing the dishes at night, and you don't use a dishwasher, as I don't, it would deprive me of the joy of washing dishes if I used a dishwasher. Washing dishes is a joy if you're present. Everything in life is a joy if you're present. Walking is a joy if you're present. Not just in walking meditation, but in every moment that you need to walk, it's a joy. Walking from the kitchen to the bathroom is a joy because you're present and aware. So everything you do in presence is a joy, is a great pleasure. So washing the dishes is like that. If you're washing the dishes and you're only thinking about you want to get this task over with, and you're thinking about what you're going to do after you're washing the dishes. Washing the dishes is a task, and what you do afterwards, that's your joy. So you're waiting, thinking about what's going to happen afterwards. You're missing your life, because in the time that you're washing the dishes, that's your life. Each moment is your life. Each moment is your life. When you really deeply understand that each moment is your life, you're not going to take it for granted. You'll savor every moment of your life. Turning the tap on and letting the water run, aware of that, water running. It's amazing when you're aware of it, how your hands move as you wash the dishes, soap suds, aware of all of it. The great pleasure of washing dishes, the great pleasure of driving, when you're aware of every moment of it. The key turning the ignition, the car moving, really being fully present for this. We have a radio in cars, right? So we can be distracted, Driving is boring. Let me turn on the radio and listen to music or the news or something to distract me from this boring driving. Of course we're bored because we're not present. We're not aware of how wonderful it is simply to be present in this moment. And if this moment involves driving, to be fully present for that. Also help us avoid accidents because we're aware. What a shame to turn on the radio or listen to something else or talk on a cell phone and miss the great joy of driving, the great joy of being present, the great joy of stopping at a traffic light, of stopping and just being still. I mean, this is a great form of meditation and silence and stillness. A traffic light is a wonderful thing. The back of cars in a traffic jam when the lights go on and they're stopping. This is a wonderful thing to have. Usually we're frustrated and we go, no, I'm thinking about where I want to go. I'm thinking about sometime in the future. I'm not present. So therefore the stoplights and the traffic jam is annoying to us. But when we're present, it's wonderful. Every moment that we're present is wonderful. So that's what it means to practice in every moment. Practice in every moment. Every moment is your meditation. Every moment. Don't separate out meditation and work. When you go to your job, every moment. Sitting in a meeting, every moment be present. It's wonderful. Could be a terribly, what you would think was a very boring meeting, going over things you already know about. Yet if you're present, then you feel the energy in the room, the energy of these other beings. It's miraculous. You're missing your life if you find anything boring in it. If you find anything boring in your life, you're just not paying attention. You're just not paying attention. Often, like my friend, we divide up our life and compartmentalize it into like, this is my meditation time, this is my entertainment time, this is my socializing time, this is my work time. There are all these different times. This is what the mind does. It divides things up and names and labels them. And so we forget to live. We forget that we're alive. And we live, as Satra says, as a dead person. We live as someone who's dead. We miss our life. You don't want to do that, do you? You don't want to miss your life. Why would you want to miss your life? You're alive. If you're aware and present, you realize that simply being alive for this moment is a miracle. It's amazing. It gives you unbelievable joy and happiness just to be alive in this moment. Aware of your breath is not just a meditation practice to stop thinking, although it's a discipline for that too, but to simply be aware of your breath is a miracle. Every breath is a joy if you're present for it, if you're aware of it. Simply moving your body in any way is a great joy. It's a miracle. Every time your body moves should be like a dance. You know, see how dancers move. It's so beautiful and elegant. Why not move like that? When you pay attention, you do. You're no longer just routinely doing something. I'm going to lift up this cup of tea. But pay attention to it. Pay attention to how the lifting, how the hand moves, every moment of it. Practice in every single moment, whatever you're doing. Right now, you're listening to me. You may be distracted and looking at other things on Facebook too. Maybe this is just in the background, or maybe you're giving it your full attention. Whatever you're doing, be aware of it. Be aware that your attention is moving from thing to thing, jumping around. Be aware that of your thoughts. What are your thoughts doing? Don't get lost in them. That means you're not paying attention and you're not present. When you're lost in your thoughts, you're in the past or future, because your thoughts can't be of presence. That's one thing you can't think. You can't think presence. Presence is where you're alive, free of thought, here, now, living, alive, in a living world. When I taught Tai Chi, I was teaching people to live in energy, to live in the energy of the world and the energy of their bodies and how the body moved in energy. That all around was an ocean of energy everywhere. And we were living in this energy and are this energy. And that's how you move in Tai Chi, with an awareness of that. So we're just more aware. When we're not aware of energy, we're limiting our experience of life. And there's nothing that we have to do, particularly to do this. We just have to be present. If we're present, energy is obvious to us. We feel it. We're fully aware of it. And that's what it means to practice in every moment, to practice being present, to practice being open to what is. To practice being aware of the stillness and silence behind everything, your true nature. In spiritual seeking, we're seeking our true nature. We're looking for a true nature. How can I find this great peace? How can I find this great freedom, this great bliss and unconditional love? How can I find this? Well, this is a misunderstanding. You are this. You have never been anything but this. So when you're present, you know this. You directly experience this, don't you? You directly experience what you are, what everything is. You're present, you're alive, you're aware, you're conscious. Most of us live in an unconscious world, just going through the motions like programmed robots. Honestly, we do. It's like programmed robots. Why are we suffering? Because we're programmed to suffer. We're programmed to not experience reality. We're programmed to live in a dream. So of course we're going to suffer. But when we become present for this, we're aware of this. We see how our thoughts create suffering in us. And that's a wonderful insight, a wonderful realization to really feel how thoughts are affecting us. And because we're present, we also experience what it's like when we're free of thoughts, when thoughts are not affecting us. When we find and realize this great peace that's always been here. So again, we want to practice in every moment of our life. We don't want to separate out, this is my meditation time, this is my peace time, and then I have to go to work and it's not peaceful there. It's not peaceful at work because you're not aware of it. You're not aware of what's really happening. You're listening to your mind. Underneath everything that you perceive is this great peace and freedom and truth, wherever you are. Maybe at your work, everybody is lost in their thoughts and confused and angry and frustrated, and it's a miserable, you're experiencing it as a miserable place, and they're experiencing it as a miserable place. It only takes one person to see how things really are to change this. It only takes one person to be present to change this. You don't have to proselytize about being present or spiritual to other people. It just annoys them and they don't understand it. You don't have to do that. You just have to be present. Your peace, happiness, love will affect everyone, will affect the environment. And it's not like you have to focus on, I want to be peace, I want to be peace, I'm peace, I'm peace. It has nothing to do with your thoughts. It has to do with reality. It has to do with being present to what actually is. After doing these long retreats here in my Zendo, which is kind of like a hermitage often because I spend a lot of time in silence, in bliss, in just being in this amazing, miraculous life. Not my life, life. reality. That's what's amazing. Your life is also amazing. Just the same. It's just truth. It's just reality. And sometimes after spending some time here, the Zendo is so it feels like an oasis of peace. It's just so peaceful here. It's just so amazing that after, a few months of not socializing or seeing other people, I don't really want to go out. I feel like, oh, this is the refuge. This is the place of great peace, and other places are not. Well, that was just a thought I had, because the reality is every place is this. Every place is this. Peace is portable. It goes wherever you go. If you're at peace, whatever environment you go into is a place of peace. And you will affect other people so that they will experience that too wherever you go. And again, this is saying just practice in every moment. In every moment. Don't forget. Don't forget what you are. Don't forget to live. Don't forget to be alive and fully aware of it. Yes, sometimes people are afraid of being present because they're experiencing suffering, and they think suffering has something to do with the presence. With being present, it doesn't. It has to do with being distracted from presence, from not being aware of presence by your mind, by your thoughts. And when you're present for your suffering and really open to your suffering and let your suffering teach you as a practice, to be open to whatever is, including your suffering will show you this. Your suffering will show you that it's only thoughts that have to do with suffering. It's only thoughts that create this resistance that creates suffering, creates this resistance to reality that you experience as suffering. That's all suffering is. Suffering can be used as an incredible tool to our awakening and our consciousness if we don't run away from it, if we really look at what's going on. And simply, honestly ask, would I be suffering without these thoughts? Well, the answer, you'll see. You'll see what the answer is. You'll experience what the answer is. Because no, you cannot suffer without those thoughts. Without believing in those thoughts, suffering doesn't exist. Without believing in your thoughts, you're able to be present to reality, to what is. So make every moment of your life your meditation. It's good to have a disciplined practice where you have a room, if you want an altar. I mean, we were trained to have an altar and have all that, and have a special room only for meditation. So if we're living with other people in a family, they know that that's the meditation time. When mommy or daddy goes in that room, then that's their meditation time, and they can come in and join us, but they have to be quiet. They have to sit in meditation too. It's a meditation room. It's a place for peace and quiet. And we're focusing on that out of our daily life. It's good to have this. But we also need to not separate this out from the rest of our life. So that when we leave the meditation room and we're engaging with our children, that's a meditation. When we're in a conversation with somebody, that's a meditation. If we're really aware and we're in a conversation with somebody, we listen very, very deeply. We're not thinking about what we want to say. We're focusing on what's going on. We probably don't speak that much. I had a interesting practice because practice is every moment of life. Last night, um, I was at the gym. I go to the gym and run for a half an hour to warm up, and then I lift weights for an hour. And then afterwards, I cool down by swimming laps in a pool. It's, yeah, I do a lot of sitting. So I need this physical exercise. The body needs this physical exercise. So I grant it this, I give it to this, and I get a lot of joy out of it. And after the laps, there's a big hot tub, whatever, I guess they call it a hot tub. It's a big, it has water jets and it's warm and it relaxes the muscles and it's a good thing to do. And there were a lot of people there talking about different things. And you may be able to tell that I'm by nature very social and, interact with people and social. This has been my story and my habit energy, but over a number of years, I've become much quieter really with people and spending a lot of time in silence just out of the joy of it. And so here I am, and it was like I realized that people were saying things that I would have wanted to jump into the conversation, right? It's people are very, social and they're all talking to each other and they're mostly tourists, so they're all interested in where people are coming from. And I'm just there listening, soaking, relaxing in the tub and listening. And there's what would have been triggers to me, like things that I'm interested in, and they just one after another they came. So the first thing was these people had come to Sedona to open up a Buddhist monastery somewhere close by, and so well that's interesting to me. I've been a Buddhist for 40 years. I have no story, so I'm no longer a Buddhist. There's nothing that I am, but it's so anyways, that would be something that I would have wanted to say about. But I remained quiet. I just was paying attention really to the bubbles. They were fascinating to me. And yet I heard everything. And then one of the women was a professional photographer who worked in advertising, worked for Saturday Night Live and did these different things. So that's also something of my past. And a trigger like, oh, I could share something about this or get into this conversation. And then there were other things too that were all things that I was really interested in. But I remained quiet. I remained it's still. And being somebody that has practiced Zen for a long time, I felt like, you know, there's a chance. Oh, they're talking about enlightenment, right? that they're talking about being awake and being free of thoughts and being free. So all things that I'm interested in, and yet I remain quiet the whole time. And I could have been helpful, maybe, but intuitively I would have known if there was in Zen we call a turning phrase. If there was, just a word or a few words that I could say that would help people wake up and become free of their thoughts. And those things just come spontaneously. They're not anything that we do. They become spontaneously. They just come spontaneously. And in this case, it didn't come, So I just remained quiet and I realized, oh, that's a practice for me. That's a practice for me to not be engaged in this, in conversation, to just remain quiet, remain still until there's something to really say that's useful. Just to say like, oh, I was also a filmmaker, a photographer, and, I'm teaching about awakening and enlightenment, these are not useful, really. They're not useful to them. It's not useful for me. So I, was there sort of watching my mind say, oh, you would have liked to do this a few years ago. You would have definitely joined in this conversation. And now you're just sitting there quietly, listening, being, enjoying, being fully alive. So it was a practice of being quiet at a time when I might not have been. There's many practices that we have. driving, preparing food, eating. Everything is a practice. Everything is a practice to be fully, fully present. I mean, when you eat food and you're fully present, it's amazing. If you want to enjoy food, it doesn't matter what it is. An apple is the most ecstatic thing you could ever experience, just a bite of an apple, because you're present for it. You realize what it really is. You realize that you're alive and what that means. Not in a mental way. You don't have to understand what that means. You feel what it means. You feel what an apple is. Far beyond anything that your mind could ever understand. You're present for it. You're present for life. So this is the great joy, as Thich Nhat Hanh called it, the miracle of mindfulness. Mindfulness just means being present. It just means being present and aware and conscious in each moment. That's all it means. And that's what the practice is. The practice is just to be fully present, fully aware, fully awake, and conscious to what's going on in each moment. A movement of your hand, the movement of a breath, the beating of your heart, the feeling of energy. I mean, there's so much more going on than our mind allows us to experience. Our mind limits the world, limits life, unbelievably. If we're lost in our mind and we're perceiving the world through our thoughts, we're not even getting close to 1% of what's happening. Not even remotely close to 1%. That's why it's so astounding when we wake up to freedom from the mind. Suddenly the world becomes alive and there's so much more. It can be overwhelming to us, and often is at first. But it's overwhelming in bliss, overwhelming in this incredible freedom that we experience. Be aware of each moment of what's going on. I often give this practice of being aware of space, right? Just being aware of the space in your room. And that can shift our consciousness and open our consciousness a little bit because we're not usually paying attention to space. That's one of the things that we've limited out. Oh, space is always here. I don't need to focus on that, so I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on, other things, loud noises, things, thoughts, but I'm not going to focus on the space in my room. I'll focus on the objects, but not the space. And yet space is always here, isn't it? So when we start focusing on space, suddenly our awareness expands a little bit. It's less limited than it was before. And maybe from space we realize there's a lot more going on here too. For instance, the energy of aliveness, the energy of a living body. That also is something that kind of surprises us when we first wake up, that suddenly we feel the energy of a living body. The limitations of our thoughts have filtered that out, so we don't experience that anymore. We did when we were an infant, but very soon we stop. But when we wake up, we experience what's happening in this moment, all of it, or as much of it as a human body can. And that's so much more than it was when we were lost in our thoughts and perceive the world through what we think the world is. what we think we are, what we think our body is, what we've been taught to think our body is. All of this knowledge limits our direct experience of life, of being alive, of being. And this practice is actually just dealing with the physicality of the world, really. We're missing that too. Not even going back to awareness that I'm not a separate self at all, and I'm not this body or mind. I'm the awareness of it. But that comes naturally if we're present. That comes naturally if we're present. Right now, you can focus on being present for each moment, to practice being present in each moment. If you need to go shopping, when you get out of the car in the parking lot, each step that you walk to the store, be fully present for that. The miracle of every step. Not the next step, but just the step that's happening in this moment. How the body moves. How the foot lifts off the ground and comes back again. It may be, as we're aware in Tai Chi, of the energy of the earth, the grounding energy of the earth that's holding us on this planet. Gravity is an energy. And we can feel how the feet are down there. And yet at the same time, it's like our head is being held by a string from the heavens, pulled up. So the upper part of our body and our head is being pulled up like a helium balloon, just being pulled up. One part, our feet are hitting the earth and feeling that energy of gravity. And the other part is we're pulled up, and that keeps our posture up. And the natural way for humans is to have this posture. And if we're aware of this, it helps do this. It reminds us. Because otherwise, over time, we tend to slump. We tend to slump, and our posture is not good anymore. It's not healthy. And it doesn't feel good. It feels better to be natural. The human body is supposed to walk up in an erect posture. It's kind of rare for species to be like this, but this is the way the human body is. So when we're aware, we remember that. And we feel this this effortless elevation of being pulled up into a posture and at the same time being grounded into the earth. Both things. The energy of both things. In Tai Chi, the human body moves between the energies of heaven and earth. It's like a conduit. So both these things are active in us, and we feel both these things. And if we only did this when we were practicing Tai Chi, well, that would be nice. At least we get an hour or two out of the day. But it's better if we do this in every moment of our life, if we're aware of this in every moment of our life, if we practice this in every moment of our life. And then our life becomes Tai Chi. Our life becomes meditation. Why would we want to separate these things out? Our life becomes yoga. Yoga of union, oneness. Your mind has limited your life, dramatically, incredibly limited your life to less than 1% of what life is. Why do you want to live like that? You don't, do you? You want to live alive. You want to experience what it's like to be alive before the body no longer is. Even a single moment of presence, a single second of presence is enough and more than an entire lifetime of 200 years, if we could live that long, without this experience of being fully alive, being fully present. Even 1 second is enough. So why not live your whole life that way? Why not intend to live your whole life in this way? Intend. Now. Make a commitment to yourself. From now on, I will live every moment of my life in full presence. And then practice it. We've been habituated and programmed to ignore life, to live in this limited world that we think life is, to live always in somewhere in the past or future of our mind, and not living fully present. And when you're fully present, you don't pay attention to your thoughts anymore. When you're fully present for your breath, that becomes everything. Let your thoughts go and just feel this amazing experience of breathing. Not by trying to breathe in a certain way, just by being aware of it. When you're walking, as we do a lot of, in Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition, a lot of walking meditation, a lot of practice of walking meditation, just as much as we do sitting meditation. And that's to help us realize that, just sitting meditation is not enough for a life. We also need to learn how to be fully aware of every footstep as it's happening, to really be completely aware of this. And from there, it's pretty easy to move on to washing dishes or driving a car, going to the bathroom. Each thing we're fully aware and present for. And when we're fully aware and present, we're not getting so lost in our thoughts. Not getting so lost to our thoughts. Because our attention is on something else. Life. Presence. Awareness. And that's a wonderful thing. Because I've been practicing this for so long, I sort of haven't really thought much about it for a while, for quite some time. But it seems to have just become part of my life. And I'm very grateful to Thich Nhat Hanh for this, when I realized that this came from what I learned from him. And this constant practice that everybody's doing. The whole Sangha practices this. So it just became second nature to do this after a while. It just became life. And I realized that this had a great deal to do with my own awakening. Because I wasn't limiting my spiritual practice to the time that I was sitting on a meditation cushion, or the time that I was on a retreat. It was all of my life, every moment of my life. And it was a practice. Because in the beginning stages, we fall into our patterns, like conversation. It's very easy to be triggered into the patterns that we do. Just like walking. It's very easy to forget that we're walking. Walking is only a means to get from one place to another, and that's all it is. That's all we've been programmed to think. We take it for granted, and it's like, yeah, I'm walking, but I'm going to use this time for thinking because this is boring. Or I'm driving, I'm going to turn on the radio because this is boring. I know how to do this. I don't need to pay attention. It's boring if I have to drive for an hour. I want to distract myself. And this practice is saying, well, no, don't do that. That's the problem. Be aware of each moment. Be aware of each step. Savor it. Savor it. Really deeply experience what that feels like. And this turns what you think of the world as hell into heaven. Not by thoughts, not by changing your thoughts. Oh, it's heaven now. It doesn't matter what you think. That's not going to help you. It matters what you directly experience of reality. And nobody can tell you what reality is. Nobody can tell you what truth is. You have to directly experience it. And you can. Be present for life.